Okay, we're live, and this is Richard Osborne showing a build-along activity from trying to build an application called LearnBook, which you're going to discover through this series. And I thought today I'll just kind of give an insight into how I'm getting started with this project and how I would start setting up a Noodle project for something like this, and what's going on around the Noodle project, and the whole development process from the very beginning, I suppose. So this is not 100% from the very beginning, because this project has already been the basic specifications and objectives have already been done, and this is what you're seeing in front of you here is the first mock-ups that we had a designer do, very talented designer who I'll credit in the video description. So what I've started doing, so I got these delivered from the designer, tons and tons and tons of screens, and this is great. This is exactly what I wanted. This gives me a really great base. I'm not a designer. I'm good at everything that's kind of back-end logic stuff when it comes to developing, but I can't do any kind of front-end developing, and I haven't got the eye for it. But working with someone who does like this, it's really it's a super blessing, because I can easily copy things. I'm a pretty good copier, so I'm going to be copying all of these different screens. And what I'm trying to do is I've taken the screens that I was sent and I'm putting them in Miro. I really like using Miro because I'm quite a visual person when it comes to planning. I need to kind of really zoom out and zoom in to feel around for what I'm actually doing. And what I'm doing is taking each one of the screens, putting it into a frame, because that makes it easier to search for. I discovered today as I chatted with ChatGPT, I got told that was a good way to organize things, because what I'm planning and what I want to do is, what the designer has done is each one of the buttons leads to a certain screen. And so I know that if I'm working on the add a learner button, I need to go to screen 11.1a, then I can go in the side here and I can just scroll down and find 11.1a, or probably I could search for it, but I haven't tested that yet, so we'll get there. But at least I could scroll down. If I can, I don't know if they go in order or not, but if I create them in order, then I can scroll down and find 11.1a and jump to that one and find out what I need to build. So this is sort of one way to stay organized. This is not the only way to do it. I work on other projects where I put stuff like, the screens in one document, and then the user stories and the user flow and everything in separate documents. But this time I thought I'll experiment with using frames and keeping the user stories next to each mockup, so that I can kind of start working on this screen. Like, for example, today I might try to work on this screen and just have the stories that are relevant to it next to it in the frame, which kind of reminds me of working with Noodle as well. It's this like canvas concept, like zooming in and zooming out of a canvas, like having a giant infinite page, which for me is something I really like. So I'm just going to kind of brainstorm through what I'm trying to do. I don't want this to be necessarily like training or anything. I'm going to split the video into sections, so you can skip to the section that interests you the most and maybe not the initial spiel section. And I'm going to try to work through like I would just normally work in an evening, getting through this project. And hopefully you'll learn some stuff about Noodle and about development in general. Even though I'm not a professionally trained developer, that wasn't my first job, and it's only been my job now for about 6 years. But and I was in no code before. I was using Bubble, and I developed a lot of client projects with Bubble over my 6 years, and now I've switched over to Noodle, and I'm going to be developing this project in Noodle. And really briefly, LearnBook is a project I've been working on for quite a long time. It's gone through a lot of different iterations. So we had a very clear blueprint of it going into it, and we knew exactly what we wanted in terms of data, design, architecture, user interaction, scope of what a user can do, what a teacher can do. This is a learning management platform. So what can a teacher do? What can their learners do? We had that all worked out, tested over multiple versions with lots of early adopters and sort of alpha versions. And so now we're trying to launch the first public release version of LearnBook, really taking it back to the basic principles of the things we really like and the customers really like, and trying to produce that instead of getting stuck, as we did many times before, in a cycle of scope creep, of just thinking, wouldn't it be cool if? We had one little bit of scope creep in this project where because ChatGPT has just become a thing this year, we were experimenting with it and decided that we were going to include a where are you? So many screens. We're going to include an AI assistant in some of our lesson creation parts of the app. We're going to have an AI assistant who will pop up and say, can I help you write this section? Can I help you teach your learner? I'll help you do your job. I mean, that's the whole point of AI this year. So we're trying to do it in a way that won't scare teachers who are sometimes a bit nervous about technology, but also will help them to do their lessons. So we're really excited about that. It'll be a really interesting challenge for me as a developer as well. Anyway, we'll come to that way later, as you can see. And this is just one part of the mock-ups. This isn't even at all done. So that today, let's just go for, I'll just get my feet wet by starting with a login page. And then afterwards, maybe think about the data architecture. I haven't designed the database in Noodle yet, so I thought I could take everybody through that process of designing a database in my way, and the way that I've learned how to do it, or the way I prefer how to do it. Thinking about maybe creating this screen, although I haven't got any user stories for this screen yet, but this is the dashboard screen where you arrive as a teacher, and the learner screen will be something similar, just not with the learner stuff at the bottom. It's all in French because this is a project being conducted in France. The client is English, but the designer is French, and some stakeholders are French, so this is being done. The screens are being done in French, but we're going to design the app in English and have it translatable into French. So you'll see a lot of French stuff on there, but it's just dummy text. It shouldn't really matter. So getting started, to get to here, we need to be able to sign up, and signing up was something that was complicated in LearnBook before, because you want to have your app be public. You don't want to lock it down too much and have it be too private, like you can only get in if you're invited by somebody, but there should still be a kind of welcome page. What we want is for teachers to be able to sign up. A teacher should have free access to this to be able to start creating lessons for their learners to deliver online. Our target is language teachers. So I used to be an English teacher in Paris, and so it's kind of part of my history. So we want a language teacher or any kind of teacher, coach, mostly coaches and soft skills. Again, just coming back to the scope. This is targeting soft skills teachers. That means anybody teaching things that are not like fact or data driven. So, not teaching Excel, like how to use Microsoft Excel, or teaching maths or something like that, because that's like a data driven subject, fact driven subject. This is more soft skills, like, so speaking a language is a soft skill. It's not something that has, a particular set of rules that have to be learned. And then you're just good to go. It has to be practiced. Other things would be things like, playing a musical instrument. Who knows if that could be relevant here. Something like learning how to be a good manager, learning how to be a good team member. So it has applications potentially in the business world as well. And so they had soft skills training platform specifically for soft skills coaches and things like that. Why did I say that? Because they're going to arrive on a sign up page, and they need to be able to create an account to get in here to make a space for themselves to invite their learners into, and to have them talk with them, deliver content to them, and see the response to that content and give feedback on the response. is the very basic principle of LearnBook. So the funny thing, like I was saying, is that we experienced before is you can create a sign up page for a teacher, but what happens if the teacher sends a link to the learner and says, so this, you have to sign up to LearnBook to be able to do my lessons, because they don't exactly know how it works. Just assume the worst. Assume that the teacher will make a mistake and not use the invite system and say, hey, you need to do your homework or your assignment, come to LearnBook to do it. And the learner goes to learnbook.com or whatever, learnbook.net. I think learnbook.com is taken, learnbook.net, and signs up. And then what the learner would see would be the same interface and not know what the heck they're supposed to do next, because they would be in the teacher zone. So this was a problem before. How do you, without knowing whether the person who's arrived on the homepage, whether they're a learner or a teacher, how do you know, how can you help direct them in a way that they're probably not going to make a mistake? So I've started writing something in the user story where, like, if I'm a teacher or a learner and I want to get access to my LearnBook app, to my personalized space, there needs to be a distinction between teacher and learner on the page. And the user should be able to understand which choice is best for them. If you want to sign up as a teacher and you've understood that that's the right choice, you'll use your first name, email, and company name if they have one. Some teachers sign up to these things with like a brand, like Richard's Super English Teaching or something, or they're signing up on behalf of an institution. So Osborne Corp. So they might be the first user of that organization, and they might invite other teachers in from their organization to use the same space. Then if the learner arrives, we want them to clearly see that they shouldn't get into the registration, that they shouldn't be getting an account, they shouldn't be signing up. But we should be telling them what they have to do. So say something like, let's say that we assume that they should arrive on that page with an invite token from the teacher or from the organization. If they arrive with no token, then we need to show some clear message that says, don't worry, don't panic, because the first thing they'll do is get bored or frustrated or discouraged and leave, and that's not what we want. In this kind of industry, if the teacher sends an invite to a learner and says, hey, come and check out this cool app that'll help you learn with me, and they get into it and if something's wrong with it or they feel like they've done something wrong, then they can get turned off really quickly. And you get cases where learners will go to their teachers and say, I don't want to use this app, I just want to have lessons face-to-face or through video calling. I didn't pay for this, I didn't pay to have some silly e-learning system, and they can get really, really bitter about the e-learning system very quickly. So we want to keep them hooked and say, don't worry, just contact your teacher, something like that. So I don't know exactly what, but we'll work on that now. So I thought it's a good way to start, because we don't have to think about back-end stuff or like data architecture. We just have the user table. One question we can maybe ask ourselves is, should teachers and learners both be in the user table of a database, or should a teacher must be a user. We need that to be in the official user database, passwords and all that. But should a learner be in there, or could a learner be a kind of user light? Like, could they be in their own table somewhere, in their own class called learner, which I did for one project, because in that project the client said, it was another learning project, and the client said, teachers need to have a space, they need to be logged in, have a session, be protected, whatever. But learners are never going to really come and kind of peruse the platform or whatever. They're going to come, do their homework, and just close the tab, and that's it. So we decided that it was actually prudent to create the learners into their own class. That will never. You have to check, is that ever going to change? Are you sure you don't want your learners to have their own space? Because if we do it this way and create a class for them, then they're never going to be able to log in, or we'll have to do some database magic to get them to be able to log in. But the answer was no. They're not going to. We're not going to change our mind on that one. So we created a learner class, and it meant that when the learner arrived, they just arrived with a token, their unique ID of that item, their item in the learner class, and that was enough to validate them and say, yep, this is the right person. But it's obviously totally insecure, because if the learner ever got their emails hacked and that, link to their activity, to their assignment showed up in the emails, then somebody would be able to go and easily just, visualize what their assignment and mess with it. If it was like a university student and there was another student who wants to copy their assignment because they don't know how to do it, and they could easily just get the link if they could, manage to do some social engineering or whatever it's called, or hacking, and get the link. They could get in and see that person's assignment very easily because there's no password protection, there's no kind of check in the session or anything like that. So for me in LearnBook, I do want learners to be able to get in and have a kind of space where it says this belongs to you, you're in this group, this is your teacher. So I do want them to be a user in this case. So, but it's worth thinking about these things. I try to think about as many of these things as possible, even if it slows me down. I'm thinking about things that I know could potentially in a week or a month or a year be a big regret. Like, oh, why did we do it that way? Why didn't we think about it twice before we got started? So all this talking in internal monologue, which is now going into YouTube, is for me really important to not make mistakes. And saying things out loud often helps. So anyway, let's get a look at this. So we're going to go into at the app level. So this is Noodle. If you already know Noodle, great. If you don't know Noodle, this is a low code development environment. It means that we have a kind of design editor and an IDE, as they call it, and integrated development environment. So it's kind of like that, where you have some nodes and some code. A lot of Noodle is done with nodes, these little blocks that represent things, and then a lot of it is done with blocks of code of JavaScript. The whole system is based on React, so the sort of hierarchy and the object model is based on React, a React framework. And so just taking a quick look at how we're going to do this, you have a thing at the top called Sheets. Sheets is kind of like a folder, like a top level folder that contains any kind of components and even pages of your app. So I'm going to create a sheet called login and sign up, so that I can keep the specific login and sign up stuff in here. Keep it separate. This, I've got an experiment sheet which contains, we already did an experiment with ChatGPT to have a look to see. It was a feasibility study about the AI assistant that I showed you earlier. So that's in my experiments sheet. I keep that in there, and I put, like, if I'm building a new component and I don't know exactly where to put it yet, or I'm just testing it to see if it works before I mess up an existing page, I'll put it in experiments and make like an experiment page like this. So I'll do new page component, experiment. So I'll put stuff in here and then go and have a look in the page hierarchy at the experiment page, and add things in there. So it could be a good place to start, maybe with the login. I'm not sure if I might just want to start with a login page. The question in my head is, do I want to have a login page, or do I want a login pop-up? If I arrive on the dashboard, should I see a pop-up that says, hey, you're not signed up? I would say probably not, because I currently don't have the plan to do a landing page presentation of LearnBook that leads them, access my space, and then if they don't have a password, or if they're not logged in, then Access My Space would throw the pop-up and say, you're not logged in, please log in. I don't think I'm planning on having that. I think probably for the moment I might get somebody to develop an external landing page, and then for the moment what I'll have is just a login page. So before we get to the dashboard, which I'll already create a sheet for because I know I want it, so I kind of get my head organized as well around the project little by little as I do this. Default, I would just store it, just leave it there, and I would store a lot of like overall reusable components that I reuse in a lot of different places in the app, so I know where they are. I have one drawer that's not specifically, you know, like a loading pop-up or an "are you sure" pop-up, or like maybe a pop-up reusable that can be transformed into lots of different types of pop-ups. So I'll leave that there, but I'll create a dashboard sheet. That's where I'm going to put all the dashboard stuff. And then login and sign up, I'm going to use that as a full page, so that if I have an external landing page, then the user will fall upon a "you're not authenticated" sign up or login page, because I want to have that space where it says, "Are you a teacher? Are you a learner?" I don't know what it's going to say yet. We're going to have to figure that out and try to do it in the style of the rest of the app. So I'm not entirely sure which style we should copy yet, actually, so we don't have that many kind of dashboard pages. I wonder. That's dashboard again. The main dashboard's okay, but you know, is that really what I want the style to be? I guess I don't have much of a choice. Yeah, no. Well, we'll see. The login page will probably come from the designer pretty soon. Let's just do a kind of blank thing with a... I'll keep it coherent to this. So let's do something with the LearnBook logo at the top. And just a kind of central login block with somewhere around there a kind of explanation as to, are you a teacher or are you a learner? So login and sign up. So how this works in Noodle is you've got the node graph that you can see here in the middle or wherever you want it to be. And on the right side here, I've put my what is actually a kind of mini web browser thing, like a viewer. So it's like a local host version of the Noodle project that I'm building. And I like to put it side by side when I'm on the big screen like this. And then I know that I'm in, you know, responsive mode as well. I can kind of design it for, say, like 500 pixel width. And if I need to, I can drag it out to see what it looks like and kind of squish it down to 300, 310 to see what a really small mobile would look like. So let's keep it at about 500. And let's create a page, because right now we're on the experiment page. So what you see here is not necessarily what you're currently seeing here. You can browse through the node graph and different pages and components without changing what page you're currently visualizing in the preview. So let's create a login page. It's going to be called login. Why not? Keep it simple. So we created a page and we get an initial page element. That's really important because it's very unique to the pages, and a page inputs component. So if you're coming from the Bubble world, the page inputs component is path parameters, which are like where in Bubble a page would have a content type, and then the page would be like learnbook.net/login/ and then like user's unique ID. That would be a path parameter. And the query parameters are the standard URL query parameters. So like question mark, user ID equals blah, 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 ampersand, token ID equals. And so you can add multiple query parameters to this. So we're going to do that later. We're probably going to add a query parameter that's called invite token. And then we're going to take that query parameter out of the page inputs and test it to see if it actually exists or not. If the person has selected learner and the invite token doesn't exist, then we can do something about that. So at page level, you've got standard things like what the title of the page is going to be in the so we could call it like LearnBook login, for example, make it a bit prettier. And the URL path is just going to be login. There we go. You can have like page padding, which is nice. They're starting to do work in Noodle on SEO, so you can do like a description that would come up in, so you'd have the title and the description in the Google results. Robots, I haven't really looked at that yet. Open Graph, haven't looked at it. Twitter, don't know. And you can add a sitemap as well, which is pretty cool. So that's coming along to make it a bit more browser friendly, search engine friendly. So we've got our page element. We need to now do, so this React, or I guess it's React, works on that kind of Bootstrap-ish format where it's columns and rows, so horizontal and vertical layouts is what Noodle call them. So we need to just think kind of very quickly about what that's going to look like. We need to have a main container that contains the login box, because we want to constrain the login box to be like centered on the page always, no matter what height your screen is, and centered horizontally no matter what width your screen is, and to have it small enough that it can just sort of stay in the middle, like float in the middle. So we're going to want a group container and then a group login box, and then within that we'll have subgroups, but just to know what the like initial page is going to look like. We'll keep it white for the moment and just leave it. So we're going to right click on the node graph, or you can click, is there a plus somewhere? Yeah, there's a plus up here. I don't use that because right clicking means that whatever you select will go where you right clicked, whereas this, it adds visual components below the last visual component in the hierarchy, in the tree, which is annoying. So I don't do that. So you'll see me only ever right clicking. I never use this button. I started using this button, and then somebody, clever person from Noodle, told me not how to do it without that button, and now I never use it anymore. So right click and go group. So there's maybe we take a quick look through the UI elements. So you've got groups, columns. So columns is handy if you want to have responsive columns, that sort of Bootstrap style, to say what your column layout is going to be and that sort of thing. Text elements, images, so yeah, all the usual stuff. We'll probably be exploring a lot of this, but you can see the basics of what this is just pre-formatted HTML elements in Noodle. One thing that's really cool about Noodle is, although they have all these pre-formatted elements, there's a lot you can do making your own elements. So you might say, oh, but there's not a, there's an image, but there's not like a image slider. That sucks. But like, well, no, the whole idea of Noodle is either someone's made a prefab, and this prefab library is growing pretty quickly because a lot of people are making these. If you say, oh, there's no date picker, yeah, there is actually. And if you use that date picker, clone that date picker, it will show you how that element that in other builders would just be like a single element is actually a composition of a lot of different visual and logic elements. And cloning it, you can actually go in Noodle and see how the person built it, because it's not just like a pre-packaged thing. It comes as a reusable node, but you can click into the node and see all the visual and logic nodes that make it up, and actually edit them if you want to, change things. Like if it's American date and you want it to be in European date, you can go and change it. So this is really cool, and you're going to see this a lot in what I do is building my own little elements when one doesn't exist. So you might think this is a bit scant in terms of what exists, what's offered out of the box with these nodes, but actually it's just because these nodes, you can use them to build your own stuff. If you wanted an image slider, you would start constructing a reusable element with a image and some icons for like the left and right buttons, and some logic that says, if I'm on the last image, don't show the right arrow, and if I'm on the first image, don't show the left arrow. You just build these things yourself, and it's pretty quick. So it gives you a huge power of personalization, which I really appreciate. Anyway, I could talk all night. So let's do group, and we have to drag it down and put it under the page. There's only one place it can go, which is as a child. So you can see that when it's kind of offset, that means it's a child, right? So then it becomes a child of page. I'll give you an example. If I put another group, you'll see that group can be either a sibling of group, so it's on the same line there, do you see? Or a child of group, or a sibling of group. So a child we want because this is going to be inside. This is the And this is for me, you need to name every single element. Doesn't matter if it's boring, doesn't matter if it's a banal element, if it's just a bloody icon. Name everything, because I have done that up till now. I never did it with Bubble, and my apps were like sometimes really difficult to understand for other developers who were coming in and working on them after me. So to my shame. So now I name all my elements. So this is going to be the main container. We don't need it to have any special padding or margins. It doesn't need any special alignment. It's going to be explicit width and height, and the default is 100% and 100% width and height. So that means that that group is the whole way across. So I mean, if we color it, you can see where it is. Oh no, we can't. Oh yeah, of course. Why can't we? This is great. This is one of those great Noodle mind bending activities, because I'm building something and in the preview it's still on the experiment page. So I need to go from the experiment page to the login page, and now we see the group. So there, it's the main container. So that was where I changed the color there. So see, right? If I changed that and did like 50-50, then it goes 50% width, 50% height. Why it has just gone 50% full screen height, I have no idea. One thing I do not like is our CSS rules and the whole CSS game. I do my best, but most of the time I'm just clicking things until it looks the way I want it to. And I don't care why. I don't know why it's content height or whatever. I mean, I know those things, but I don't know why this isn't doing 50% height. So see, if I fix it, it just disappears. Anyway, let's say that's broken. No biggie. And I could have it centered, or middle aligned. That doesn't work. But anyway. Or I can reset this handy little reset button here. If I started messing with things, I can just reset the default. So I'm going to put that back to being transparent. And then this group is the one that we want to be kind of smaller, I suppose. So let me think what we're going to do here to make sure that it looks good on mobile, that it's kind of nearly touching the edges on mobile, but it doesn't go over a certain width. We're going to set, of course, a max width. So we're going to say that the max width is going to be 500 pixels. I don't know. Sometimes I just set the numbers again and I just look and like, yeah, that looks good. So let's give it a color so we know where it is, or like a border or something. The color's a bit weird. Let's give it a border there. So yeah, no, that's not good. I haven't named it yet. So this is going to be the login box. Where the heck is it? When you roll over an element, it goes blue in the editor. I think my element is like full page width at the moment. Oh yeah, of course, because I'm at 500 width. Ta-da! So go back up, and we'll make that centered, and we'll make it vertically centered. And now we need to give it a vertical. What I want to do is actually give it the vertical height of its content. I don't want to set a minimum and then actually end up adding more stuff and it sort of pushes it out. But yeah, maybe a minimum height. Just do a minimum height of like 300 pixels. And then we're going to say that it is content height and explicit width. There we go. So it makes a nice little login box. Pretty. I'm not going to keep a border. I'm just doing it because we're in the middle of developing it. So in the login box, then I need to have, I guess, I don't know, like a text, maybe title sort of text. Like let's put, so that's a child of the login box. So let's put the text, we're going to call that title text. Again, name all the elements. What's cool is the name of the element comes up and then the type of the element comes up below it. So you don't lose the basic notion of type. I remember with Bubble, it would pre-name something group A, or whatever. And if you want to rename it, you would have to keep group in the name, or else you would, when typing and trying to find something, you wouldn't necessarily remember what type of object it was. Whereas with Noodle, you've got those in the name. And with Noodle, one thing that's super, super good that was never the case with Bubble, if this search thing up at the top left, The search is super powerful. If I type in main, it'll bring up main container and the page router, which has a name called main. So it searches the names that you've typed and also the type of thing that it is. Group, see, group. So even though I renamed them to login box, it comes up as group login box. It's called login box. It's great. So it means you search, and every time you do that, you're searching the whole app. So you saw that, like, I got the app level thing, app component, that's in a different page, but that it comes up, it searches immediately through everything you've done, and it even searches through functions, scripts. So the JavaScript that you've typed, if you're trying to find a particular script that you typed before, you can actually type the part of the JavaScript and it'll search within the function of the script, which is a real godsend. Anyway, so search is great. Come back to the components tab. So we have a title text, and the title text, there's some basic styles already made when you start the app. So let's say it's going to be title small. No, that's not good. Title medium. It's not bad. Title large. Yeah, maybe. I don't know. This looks awful, but it's a good start, I guess. You maybe didn't believe me when I said I'm not a front-end designer, but now you do. So let's say login. And then we're going to say something like, that's a quick control C, control V you saw there, by the way, sorry. So control C, control V, which is probably not good, because actually I shouldn't copy and paste things in general, but I shouldn't also do it when I've just made this and I haven't styled it properly. So text styles, I would normally do text width and height. So then you can see the little blue box is showing me that it's now like really constrained to the size of the text. I'll do that with this one as well. And so this one I wanted to say welcome, so we'll call that welcome text. And go welcome to LearnBook. Please log in below. I always end up saying sign in and log in. I mix them up. Sign in maybe is more sign something, like use your hands. And so it might be, is that more something that more people would recognize, or is log in something everybody knows what a login these days is? That's a hard question. You just don't know who's going to be using your app. So should you use something that semantically sounds like something you would sign in is when you come to anybody who's ever been working has come to a company at some point and had to sign in their book to get into the company. So yeah, anyway, I'm not going to change it right now, but we'll just leave it like that. Why would you put a colon? Who puts colons? Stop, maybe? Does that look better? Yeah, please log in below. Anyway. So we're going to put, this is really just like throwing together the teacher login thing with no care for, is it a teacher, is it a learner, all the stuff I talked about earlier. So I just want to put the basic elements in place so I know they're here. So I'm going to put a text input here. So look at the nice simple text input that Noodle offers. They have text that goes in like placeholders, stuff like that. So I'm going to type your email. This is just for logging in, so your email. We're going to make it an email field, so that'll make it easier to validate. It'll auto-validate, I guess, as an email. And you can turn on or off the label, which is a nice feature. I like that because don't want to have to do that by myself. So we'll say your email, make it consistent. You can change the spacing if you want it to be higher or lower. You can change the text style if you want it to be a bigger label. Maybe you want to make it label medium. There we go. And looking good. Well, I mean, it's looking terrible, but functionally speaking, it looks good. This is where I would say this is perfect. Don't need to change it. It does exactly what it says on the tin. Spacing out elements, why would you need to do that? It's ridiculous. Anyway, we will do it because I have to. Your password. Now, again, other consideration. Are we going to do, so I'll make it a password field before I start going off on a tangent again. Are we going to make it that you use a password to log in? Or should it be two-factor authentication, you use your mobile and like a text message to log in, a text code? Or is it, do you want to hook it up to Google Authenticator, or do you want to make it a magic login link where you get a token, session token, and then you click the link in the email and it logs you in automatically? I've kind of done a bit of everything, and I think the old email and password ends up always coming back. People think it's a great novelty to have the like a two-factor authentication thing just for logging in. Like, oh, people who log in don't even need a password anymore, they just log in with their phone. So cool. Like, yeah, it's a good security measure on top of having a password, but in the end they all come back to saying, yeah, people didn't really understand the mobile thing, and so can we just go back to, people were asking me like, why can't I just put in my password? Like, okay, if your users are asking you that, it's probably because they want to do it and you should just do it. So your email, your password, and then we'll do something like I forgot my password group, I guess. Why a group? Because then it will I can make it clickable and kind of size it a bit better. So we'll take a text, stick it in here and say, forgot your password, ? It's kind of nice. I like that. Sort of asking a question, like instead of saying reset your password and assuming the user knows that they want to reset their password, or maybe they don't have that wording in their head, and so they don't actually know that that's what they want to do. So maybe just I like that idea of asking questions. Have you forgotten your password? You can make it really long and eloquent if you want, or just leave it as something like this. So the text is small, the group is huge because the group is doing 100%. So it's saying, oh, I've got a good bit of space here on the bottom, I'm going to take it all up. And that's not what we want. And so we're going to make this one content width and height, even though I said I wanted it to be a bit of a bigger clickable area. But we're going to fix that by adding some padding. So 5, let's do 5, 5, 5, 5. Oh yeah, that's not 5. French keyboard problems. Yeah, okay. Oh. So that looks a bit bigger there. Forgot your password. And then we'll make it a clickable thing. So groups are not by nature clickable, and it's not like in Bubble where if you add a workflow, then the cursor becomes a pointer, and instead of like here it's a text and I can select the text. So we're going to go and say, if we want a group to be clickable, then we go to the bottom of the settings of the group to get the CSS style. This is cool, they added this recently. They've got a tag div. You can tag it as like a section, article, stuff like that if you're making a blog. So that's better for SEO. That's a very recent thing. But anyway, I leave it as div for the moment, and I'm going to put CSS style, and I'm going to say, what was it? Cursor pointer. Is it with a semicolon after? I don't remember. Just leave it like that. Yes, a semicolon. So cursor double point pointer. It means that the next time I go back, ta-da, it turns into a pointer. So now it looks like it's clickable. So just to do that with CSS rather than in Bubble doing it with workflows. And we're going to center that because that looks better. Ta-dam. And we'll center that title as well so that people stop cringing watching this. Okay, that looks a bit better. And the welcome text maybe too. Yeah, it's starting to look a little bit more consistent. Please log in below. Yeah. Okay, so that's good. And then we're going to say another group. So I just copy. If you copy paste the parent, it copies and pastes all the children as well. And you'll see that currently I've copied and pasted it, and it's saying this node is detached from the main node tree. So anything that's not in the tree somewhere will not be rendered in the page. If I stick it anywhere in the tree, then suddenly it appears. So that's cool. And then I can take it out and stick it wherever I want. So let's put it here. This is a little bit fiddly. If you want to put something as a sibling of the parent of the last group, if that makes sense. I mean, you can see what I'm doing. Maybe that makes more sense. If I put it here, it becomes a child of the forgot password group, which is not what I want. I actually want it to be a sibling. So I'm going to put it, like you see here, it's the child of forgot password group. Here it's on the same level as the group, so it becomes a sibling. So that's better. And this is the, what did I say it was? Go to sign up group. So this is going to be, if we change the text, it'll change the name, I think. Don't have an account, sign up. Something simple. Yeah, so it changes the name of the text. That's handy. I don't have to rename that myself. And it should also have the, yeah, it has the same CSS rule. Because we copy pasted it, it also copy pasted all of the parameters. So that's cool. That's good. Okay, and now we are going to make this not look so ridiculous. So let's do a couple of little changes. We're going to add a vertical gap. Let's put 20 because I like 20. 20 is the magic number for me. That looks good. This one not so much because it's kind of touching the bottom now. So what I would like then is to have some padding. Top padding 20. Bottom padding 20, and then that makes the same sort of space. And then left and right padding, let's go 20 and see what it looks like. It's probably not enough. No, it needs more than that, 40 maybe. Yeah, it's looking better. This text is overflowing. Look. So that, yeah, this, you can see the 40 line is where the inputs are. This text is overflowing. Texts are a little bit funky. In Noodle, I'm trying to wrap my head around them, so forgive me if I don't do this right. We're going to make that, so we don't even need to make that center line. It's something about, no, it wasn't about word breaks, it was about, come on brain, it wasn't word breaks. Content, yeah, because it's content width and height. So because it's content width and height, it says, I don't care that my parent is, 400 and something pixels. I'm 500 pixels. And that, so the content that I have on one line is 500 pixels. Therefore, I'm at 500 pixels. I'm going to overflow. I don't care. So what we want to do probably is to take away the text width element of that. Or we could have put it in a group if we wanted to contain it and make it a bit more responsive. But let's just say it's an explicit width and height. The explicit width is 100%, so then that respects the width of the group, the parent group. And we obviously don't want this below to be there, and so we're going to change that to center aligned. Now it looks stupid because it's please log in new line below, and that's not very nice. I guess if it was responsive, it's probably going to look good, but let's see. Yeah, in responsive mode, that looks good. Maybe what we want to do is have it on 2 lines by default. So let's just do a little line break there. Welcome to LearnBook, please log in below. That's better. So then it's consistent between the sort of desktop view and the mobile view. Oh no, it's not. What's that, 311? Okay. So yeah, I think when we get to this, we're going to want that to be not as much padding here in mobile. So let's take, oh crap, I'm gonna have to try to remember this now. No, I won't. I was just trying to think, I have to remember how to do that window width thing in JavaScript. I could probably go, one of the cool things about Noodle is you have a developer console. So their preview browser is based on some version of Chromium or something like that. So you actually have a JavaScript console, so you can go window, inner width, outer width, is that what it is? Yeah, inner width. What's outer width then? I'm such a noob. Outer height, outer width. 174. Ah, so it's my screen width is outer width and inner width is the window. Okay. Yeah, if only I weren't. Anyway. So the inner width is 568. That's perfect. That's what I want. So we're gonna what we want to do is have something that tells us what the inner width is, so that we can say when inner width is less than whatever, then output something that's going to change the padding amount. So the padding amount here is 4040. Let's say I've reduced it to 2020 when it's below. When it, yeah, like there it starts to look a bit weird. So let's say when it's below 400, we're going to make that padding 2020, and then this shouldn't happen with the two lines because it has a bit more space with 40 extra pixels of space from that padding being taken away. So we need a function node. So there's three. There's expression. Expression is really just like what you would have in an if statement, like you know, user created date plus 5 days, and then it outputs a date or something like that. What we want is a function node. We want something where we can actually type in proper full sort of like methods and stuff like that. So we're going to do function. I'm sorry, I was about to say, oh, I don't remember what it is. I could just ask Noodl AI. It's true that you can just type it in here and say, give me output the window width as a function, and then send, and then that will make its own little function node and tells me when it's done. This function retrieves the current width of the window. Cool. And so we go to properties and script edit, and you'll see, there you go, window width is window inner width, and the output is window width. So the top part is just regular old JavaScript. The bottom part is the, what do you call that? It's not a function, object from the Noodle world. Noodle has pre-built objects like outputs, and then whatever you put after outputs becomes an object that's outputted from the node. So where they've put here outputs.windowWidth, the AI has put that. Then if I take the output from this, which is the little dot on the side, and drag it somewhere, then I can see window width, and I can connect it up to something. So that's kind of the same thing we wanted to do here. So we'll just do that manually because I want to do something special with it. So constant window width equals what did I say it was? Window inner width. And then we're going to say, so what do we want to do? We want to say, we want to do a test. We want to say if the inner width is less than 500, we're going to output something. And if it's greater than 500, we're going to output something else. So we want to output probably we want to output something that can go into this input. And I think it's going to be a number, but I'm not 100% sure. So we're going to try that and see if it works. So delete this. So this function is going to be called window check window width. And so we're going to say if, I'm a really bad JavaScripter by the way, so please forgive me, window width is less than I can find it less than 500, then we want to output padding. So whatever you put after output is just the name that's going to appear, and the tendency in JavaScript would be if it's a value, then just put the small letter. If it's an actual like object or something like, or no, sorry, like a function, then put maybe a capital letter, or signals. Often like signals are kind of capital letters in Noodle world. Anyway, outputs padding equals what did we say it was, 20. So let's just go with 20 for now and see if that works. Else outputs padding equals 40. Okay, let's see if that works. There we go. So we're more than 500, so we're at 40. So we want that output to go here. Padding is going to be connected to, so all this stuff here is what ports, input ports can you connect to a group. And so every different element type has its own input ports. And if you make your own elements, then you can actually specify your own input ports and your own categories of input ports, which is really cool. So you can make this by yourself if you want. So margin left pixels. So that seemed, yeah, I think I'm right there because it's pixels in parentheses, like just give me the number and I'll put the pixel value in. So do margin left and, oh, yeah, that's right. No, yes. Padding, and again, the same padding. So 20 is also going to go on margin right. It should be good. All right, so what we'll do, just so you can see this working because it's fun, is I'm going to pin this. It means that the input and output will be shown at all times. And I'm going to pin these, or at least this one, so you'll see as it's changing, you'll see the values change here as well. It's a really good way to debug as well, pinning stuff, just so you can see how it works. So we're going to reduce it down, and now it's less than 500. Is it going to work? No, it's not. And why not? Probably because it already ran, and it only runs once. Why would it run again? Nothing has changed, so yeah, it runs again, and it's less than 500, but it still looks like it's 40 pixels padding. Why is that? Oh no, it says 20. It says 20. Is that 20? So if I go down to mobile size, no, it's not 20, is it? That's 40. It's loaded up bigger than 500. Yeah, so it's outputting 40. Going in here, I think it's just that there has to be something else. What do we have to output here? Not a number. Yeah, of course, because everybody's probably screaming at the screen right now and saying, it's not the margin, you muppet, it's the padding. Of course it is. Yeah, and even I saw the group move a little bit more away from the edge of the page, so like, why didn't I think that's a red flag? I'm doing something wrong. No, muppet. Pad left. Pad right. Beautiful. Okay. So it doesn't change, but if I reload it and the function runs, then it goes to the right padding. That's good. So it looks tighter. And then even at 310, I'm still on 2 lines. So that's very nice. Would be nice maybe to have a little bit of space either side there. It looks a bit weird. So maybe set that at like even just 5 pixels, just get it off the edges of the page. I hope that doesn't mess up my little plan. Yeah, that's still pretty good. Yeah, not bad. Just a little bit off the edge. It might need more later, but whatever. Okay. What was I going to do? Oh yeah, so when the window changes, we need to fire something that checks this. So I'm going to ask the AI for that because I don't know how to do that. Output every time the window inner width changes. It listens to the window resize event and outputs the current window inner width every time it changes. Ooh, nice. So when the page loads, the function loads, it adds an event listener, and that's what we want. So I'm going to copy this and steal it and put it in here. Yeah. So outputs. Yeah, we don't want an output though. Oh yeah, no. Luminek. Yeah, now I need some fancy JavaScript stuff. What if I put all this inside the function? Would that work? Would that work? Or am I being crazy? So define the window width inside here and then say, yeah, so then would it fire this every time then it resizes? We will find out, I guess. Nope, doesn't fire anything anymore. Let's take this and give it to ChatGPT. So when Noodl AI fails, I go to ChatGPT. So, sorry, ignore my chat history if you will. Probably something in there about, I don't know, what's the best food to eat that can use up strawberries and something else that I have in my fridge. I do ask stupid things. Sorry. Can you please, I say please because just in case ChatGPT takes over the world, then I'll be safe. Can you please fix this code for me? I want it to fire every time the inner width changes and output one or another padding value as a result. And as context, I'm using the Noodle low code IDE. It normally sort of understands just from the code, but just in case. It's going to say your code is listening, but I'm not familiar with specifics of no. Here's a slightly optimized version. Yeah, okay, thanks for that. Okay, yeah, no, it's, what's that ternary operator? It's not my thing, this stuff. Anyway, copy pastes. Who copies pastes code? That's not good. You should type it out by hand. It didn't work. Oh my goodness, I'm very silly. So it has to resize. So what we want is to have it on page load, detect what the width is, and then when it resizes, do a different width. So we can do two different outputs, I think. We'll do a variable outside the function and a variable inside the function, but both of them are going to use the outputs padding output. And that should throw the same value out every time. So let's say const initial, we'll call it window width equals window inner width. So that'll run on page load. And then it's going to add the event listener. And then if the window size changes, then it'll change. Yeah, so then we'll put the same. So when it loads the page, so check page window width on page load before resize event, and then listen to window resize event, and that's good. So it'll do that operation when it loads. And it'll do the same output in the listener when the window size changes. Window width is not defined. Yeah, well, it wouldn't be, would it? It was because it's initial window width. Initial window width is defined, I hope. Yay. So it's currently at 585, so it should come as 40 when we reload. There it is. And then when we squeeze 20, 40, 20, 40, that's cool. Nice. Do you see what you can do with a little bit of JavaScript and ChatGPT and Noodle AI? But like it's all free, so I mean not free, but you know, the Noodle AI is connected up to, mine's connected up to GPT-4, but you could have it connected up to GPT-3 if you want it to be a bit less expensive. But that's pretty cool. Okie dokie. What did I want to do? Oh, because we don't even have a button yet, so button. Talk a little bit about styles, because the buttons are definitely like styling. They don't have a good initial style. So we're going to call this the login button. Okay, so buttons, styles. How do we do styles? Styles in Noodle are called style variants. So we're going to style this button and then go and add a style variant once we're done and happy with it. The padding and margins and all that also go into the style variant. That's important to know. So let's do a little bit of styling. Anyway, I don't know what the color is going to be. I guess this orange is probably the color it's going to be. So let's steal that from, do I have the PDF somewhere? Oh, it's in my documents. Tend not to show my documents, but here we go. Let's look at that one. Now we need a color dropper. Where's that? I do have a color dropper, don't I? Digital color meter. Nice. Digital color meter, and this. I know I should have the color saved somewhere, but I'm just being lazy. You might say this is a weird way to be lazy, and you would be right. So there. Is that the orange? Is that the orange? Yeah, well actually that's the orange. But then if she's made that orange here, the orange, then I should make that the orange too. Oh well, there we go, there's a button. So let's just zoom in on that, and then yeah, 2551060. ChatGPT! What did I say? 2551060. I'm so lazy. Thanks. I stopped short of saying thank you because it's a bit weird. I should say thank you. I don't, but it's weird. Okay. So we're going to add a color because I want to have a specific color for this. So we're going to create a new color style plus. We're going to call it LearnBook Orange. And then we're going to go find LearnBook Orange. We're going to click the color, put in the hex code. And that's now LearnBook Orange. Nice. It's very orange, isn't it? Anyway. I actually would like that to be bigger. I think it's too small. So we're going to do that. Minimum width is going to be 140. That's about right. Yeah, it looks nice. Don't know how much she did in, sorry, Roxanne is the person who did these screens. Yeah, I mean I like that to have a good bit of padding. I mean, maybe I just need to add more padding. Maybe I don't add that much. No, I want to have a minimum width. And there should be padding, but 24 is probably pretty good as padding there, so that should be fine. So there you go. This is the first page. There's not a lot of logic on here. I can show you a little bit of logic. Let's do a little bit of logic just for fun. So we know that that's going to go to the dashboard page, which I'm going to make right now. We're not going to put anything in there. We're just going to make it because I want it to be in my router. So this is important. I want to be able to navigate from this login page to the dashboard page and vice versa. So I need to go to the app level where I have my page router. A page router in Noodle is kind of like when you have a page like this, this would probably be part of a main page router, but this might actually have its own sub page router. In fact, I know one that definitely would have that. Hold on. The content page, I think, would be a page router example. Yeah, here. So when you're looking at your lessons, your templates, lessons or full training courses, ones that have been done by your training organization, all these things would be different pages in Noodle World. So you'd have a My Courses page, you would have a My Templates page, you would have a Courses Overall page, you would have then and probably actually what you would have here is you would have a page router for the content page that has two sub pages, courses and training. And within those courses and training pages, you might actually have two page routers. And the page router in courses would have a My Courses page, a templates page, a LearnBook page, and an organization page. That means that, whereas in Bubble you would have done that in big groups, you would have had like this whole thing here would have been a group. It's not like that with Noodle. It's not like groups and then you tab or like hide one and show another one. It's more done with page routers, and I think that's something to do with React, but it works well. There's some funny things about it, but it does work well, and it is a good way to organize your app. So this at the app level is like the overall page router, what you here they call by default the main page router. So this is like, you know, learnbook.net/dashboard. If I put in dashboard a page router, and maybe I have like learners screen and the courses screen, then it would be learnbook.net/dashboard/learners, because it's a new kind of branch of the tree, if that makes sense. So I think the page router is basically like a branch of the tree. This is the first from the stem of the tree, not stem of the tree, Jesus Christ, I've forgotten what the bottom part of a tree is, but from the trunk of the tree, there we go, getting my words at one point. From the trunk of the tree, this is like the first branch, and then each branch can have its own branches, and that's page routers. Page routers is like each time it branches off. So here we have the login page and the dashboard page. So we can go between these two pages by just navigating, using the navigating node. So when we log in, we're going to do read write data. So I'm going to use a Noodle backend in my data cloud services. I'm going to use the LearnBook backend. So that means I'm paying Noodle to get this, what is based on Parse, is an open source layer on top of MongoDB type database. That helps you to make it more like an SQL style database than a MongoDB database. So I want my users to come from here, and that means that all of these default nodes that are here in the read write data section, I can, not these ones, these are universal, but these ones here, cloud data, these ones are from the Noodle backend. So if you decide to use a different backend, like you want to use Xano or something like that, or Supabase, then you would have to build your own query node and delete node and add record node and remove record node. You would have to make all these yourself, which is fine, and it can be done. But for the purposes of this app, I'm going to use the ones that they already have. So I want to, what do I want to do? I want to log in. So 2 inputs are required, username and password. So I'm going to do text input. I'm going to connect the text, which is the output, or like the text that's typed into it, connect that to the username. And I should rename that as email input. And this is going to be called password input. The password text then should go to password. So it'll feed that data in when we type. So if I type in Richard at, you can see that it's feeding. And if I pin it, digitalbricks.io, and the password is password 0. So I can see the data here. You wouldn't see, in practice, if that was a real password, a deployed version of the site, you wouldn't see the password, I guess. Because it's disconnected from the node tree. When it's deployed, you don't see this stuff anymore. You don't get to test it like this. It's not, which is a thing that's sort of sad, but I guess makes sense, is that this is all happening locally. If I deploy this website now to the cloud, then it becomes a deployed website. It's no longer something that I can see the data like this visualized in the editor. The editor only works with the local version, so which is fine. And it means you have to debug everything locally. If you want to fix something in live, you can't debug it in live, which is probably more responsible anyway. Look at this. This is not good. It's purple. What the heck? And of course, because we don't have a style variant, that makes sense. So in its neutral state, it looked fine. And then, oh, where did it go? In its hovered state, I don't really care because I think hovered is not doing anything. But in its focused state, which is this, it's got focus now. It's got a special color. So I have to put it in focus state and then go down and say, haha, the border has changed color and the label style has changed. So we need to change the label style, let's make it orange, LearnBook orange. And we're going to make the borders also LearnBook orange. And then we're going to save that. So now I'm going to save a style variant that will encompass all of these as they currently are. So that's fine. I'm going to call this standard input. Let's call it standard orange input. So I know kind of what it is about. Because then I can go to the email input and I can just go style variant and standard orange input. And then both of them will turn orange instead of purple, which is better. So then if I click, I can't remember what I was talking about. Oh yeah, so the values have gone in. So the values are in the node waiting to go, but there's no action yet. Actions in Noodle come not from orange strings, noodles, but from blue string, which is sending signals. It's actually calling the function basically. So we need to, when the login is clicked, we need to call the login function. It's represented by lightning bolts. So if a lightning bolt means I'm going to do something. So I'm going to call something, I'm going to interact with another node. So there's a lot of different possible calls you can do, but let's say we just want to click it. It's simple, click. And the action on the side will be do. There's only one action with login, which is do. So you see that's a blue one. And the data is triggered or not triggered. When I click it, it'll say triggered once, triggered twice, triggered 3 times. And that helps you to understand how many times the call has been sent out. So that's good. And then we're not done, because if we just click login, it's going to say, okay, and just do nothing. So like here, it just said invalid username and password. But on the user side, like if I hide the node graph, click login, nothing happens. Because we don't have any default things in Noodle, it's all do it yourself. So I want a toast to show up if the login doesn't work. So we're going to go into our prefabs. I think toasts are in here. Yeah, toasts are here. I recommend going and checking out the prefab. The toast prefab is pretty cool, and it'll teach you a lot about how the prefabs work. So now that I've installed it, it should appear in project components. Yeah, show toast. So I'm going to put a show toast here. What you see here is that it's a gray node. It means it's a logic node, so it doesn't have to go in the tree. It just stays floating around, the same as the orange, the pink, purple nodes, which are like scripted ones, JavaScript nodes, and the green ones, which are these pre-made cloud function nodes. They're logic, so they just sit away from the element tree. So if login fails, I want this toast, like I said, go in and check it out. It's cool. And then this, and you can just keep going deeper and deeper down the rabbit hole of toasts. How does a toast work? Anyway, I'm getting too excited. So it's going to say, it's going to be an error color or a warning color, let's say, and say, sorry, something went wrong. Please try again. Please check your details and try again. Done. So if the login function throws an error failure, then we're going to do this action, show the toast. Equally, you could have a nice little success toast, why not? And say login successful, redirecting to dashboard. So on the success of this node, we show the toast. Alrighty. How you organize this is up to you. Do you want it to be like this, or do you want it to be like, I don't know. There's no currently there's no way of grouping elements apart from doing a component, which we'll talk about another time. It's very interesting, but we don't have to talk about that right now. If you end up having a lot of elements like this, that's the moment to say, okay, I need to make a logic component to group all these things, and it'll just become one gray box like this with all the stuff inside it, which is a nice way to keep things tidy. And then the final thing we need to do is navigate. So after the login is successful, I want to navigate. So you either navigate to a part of a page router, which can be a bit funky if you're not in the same page router and you're navigating to another page router's page. That can start getting a bit weird, but Let's just use navigate for the moment. Navigate the path is when you have a specific page in another router that you want to get to. Then you would use navigate the path and put the specific route to that page in the other router, as opposed to just selecting it from navigate. So navigate will give us all the target pages in that we have access to. So we have access to the dashboard page. We don't want to open it in a new tab. When it's successful, we want to navigate there. Now, will that show the toast and then navigate or not? I'm not sure. Should we maybe connect the success signal up to that? Let's see. So say when the toast is successfully shown, then we navigate. Might work, it might not. Some success signals sometimes come out as orange, but they're actually blue. They're actually signals. Anyway, that doesn't make sense, but let's just try it out and see what happens. So password, login. Sorry, something went wrong. Please check your details and try again, because there isn't a user called Richard Osborne. So let's make one manually in the user table. I'm going to add a row. His email verified is yes, and we're going to call him username Richard@digitalbricks.io, and the password is password0, and the email is richard@digitalbricks.io. Why they have username and email, I don't know, it's a bit old school. Anyway, now we have to add it before I forget and I end up losing it. I do have to click add and then it works. User added, so that's good. I've created a manual entry. And now if I click, hang on, did I type password 0? No, I did. Login. Login successful, redirecting the dashboard, but it doesn't fire. That success signal didn't fire. Oh, look, it's not hooked up, that's why. It's funny with prefab, sometimes some of these things don't really show up. So if it closes itself, if the pop-up closes itself, we'll send a signal to success then. And now it's gone blue. That's what we wanted. Try it again. Okay. Yeah, that was cool. So it showed the toast, it closed the toast, and when the toast closed, then it navigated to the dashboard, which is this blank page. We can just go back. See this one again. Nice. So that's a really flyover introduction into what it looks like to create a page and some logic and stuff in Noodle, and doing a bit of coding and trying out page routers, doing a bit of database stuff. So we're getting there. Obviously there's not much done in the way of LearnBook yet, and not really, we didn't really get to touch on much of this stuff that we talked about in my user story about distinguishing between teachers and learners. That is for another day, but welcome to the world of developing where everything is a bit slow. But it's better that we do things slowly and we really take the time to consider stuff like, you know, just even simple things like, what is this going to look like on mobile? What's it going to look like on desktop? So much white space. Maybe I should have like a sidebar or top bar, make it a bit of a colorful background. Those are things that I can ask my designer about as well to help me with. So, you know, these are all things that are coming up soon. But yeah, that's a very, very basic intro. So that's I'm going to leave it there for the night, and I hope that was interesting for everybody. And see you later. Take care.